I don't think this is going to come as a shocker to anybody, but I am officially endorsing Harris Walz for president, vice president, and my prediction is that a Harris administration would be much better for young men. And I believe that young men are some of the last available swing voters because they don't traditionally vote. When they get excited, they vote. They almost always, or they disproportionately vote, at least until recently, for Democrats. So I believe the swing voters are young men. And this is why I think young men would be better served voting for Vice President Harris, and that I encourage them to do so. And that is, I think everybody needs a code, whether it's from your religion, whether it's from the armed services, whether it's from your company. Everybody needs kind of an anchor to hold on to and guide the millions of decisions they have to make in a complicated world. And I increasingly believe that young men can call on, or what I'm hoping they can develop as a new code, is a modern form of masculinity. And those three things are the following: being a provider, a protector, and a procreator. And I want to go through each of these and why I believe the Harris administration and policies would enable men to foot to those.
I like this. By the way, the Washington Post has yet to make one. Jeff Bezos, get off your ass and make one. But go ahead. I love that you're doing it.
Okay, so provider. I think a decent place for any man to start is to take economic responsibility for his household. And now, that doesn't mean that you're going to get in the way of your wife or your partner who might be better at that money thing. When my partner was at Goldman Sachs and making more money than me, I tried to pick up the slack at home and not be threatened by it. And that is also taking economic responsibility. But a good starting point is that recognizing 3 in 4 women see economic viability as key to a mate. It's only 1 in 4 men about women. Unfortunately, I'm not talking about the way the world should be, but the way it is, men are disproportionately evaluated on their economic viability. You need to be a provider. And under the Harris administration, you're talking about an economic strategy that everyone from Goldman Sachs to basically every living Nobel Prize winner economics is going to say is going to result in greater growth. And with the Trump administration as a young man, you are talking about what will effectively be the greatest tax increase in history on you. And it's the following. It'll be a deficit that will be triple than what would be under the Harris administration. Why is a deficit the biggest tax in history on you? Because Kara Swisher and Scott Galloway will not be alive to pay back that deficit. You will have to pay it back. So what young people haven't connected the dots on is that deficit spending is nothing but a tax on them, such that I can have champagne and cocaine now. You're going to have to pay it back, not me. There are a variety of different economic plans, whether it's a housing credit, whether it's loans for small businesses, that are meant to put more money in the pockets of young people, specifically young men, and enable you to be a better provider, protector. Your default setting as a man should be one of protection. You don't need to understand the nuance around illegal or undocumented workers, but when you see them being demonized, your default setting should be to move to protection. You don't need to understand or agree with the trans community, but when you see them being demonized, your default should be as a protector. Real men break up fights and bars. They don't start them. Real men protect their country. They don't shitpost it. Harris and Walz have a much greater default setting around protection, and I especially think Vice President Walz presents a wonderful image as a man being a protector, and that is, and I love the story of him hearing about the LGBT community at his high school feeling bullied and him enacting the football team to come to their aid. That is exactly what it means to be a man, to be a protector. And then finally, procreator. The most rewarding thing in life, and I'm not saying you have to do this to be happy, but the most rewarding thing I know in your life, Kara, and in my life has been raising children with a competent, loving partner. And I did not, when I saw my partner, the mother of my children, at the Raleigh Hotel at the pool, I was not thinking that she'd be great at buying distressed properties and fixing them up, or she'd be a good person to save for a 401k. I had one thought, and that is I would really, really like to have sex with this person. And wanting to have sex with women and being successful at it and figuring out the nuance and the skills and the strength and the humor and showering and enduring the rejection and being funny and being kind such that you can have sex with women is a wonderful thing, and it's something you should be proud of. And your ability to be attractive to women will be easier under a Harris administration. And if I did a survey around would young men like to have more or less sex, I'm pretty sure the vast majority of them would say, I would like to have more sex. And if you want to have more sex, then we absolutely need to cauterize, reject, turn around this ridiculous notion that women are going to have their bodily autonomy taken. Because if you want to have random sex, and let's be clear, the majority of relationships involve at some point maybe a little bit of alcohol and a little bit of random sex. If the woman is thinking about random sex and then says, you know what, I might be in an emergency room parking lot, unable to terminate a pregnancy, even if I have sepsis, because the doctor might go to jail. If I have to carry an unwanted pregnancy to term, both you and her are going to be economically disabled. The fastest way to have less sex is to let more people get on the Supreme Court and to take away a woman's bodily autonomy. So, guys, you want to get laid more? Make sure women have bodily autonomy. Let's review. Your ability to be a provider.
Okay.
I'm very serious about this shit. I think sex is a wonderful thing.
I know. I'm waiting.
And the notion that young people are having less sex, it is terrible. And it is a wonderful thing. And the notion that you and your partner have to be much more thoughtful and scared of actually having sex is terrible for everybody. One, your ability to be a provider, economic policies that make it easier for you to be economically responsible for your household. Two, a default setting around being a provider. And three, your ability to form a family at your pace with economic responsibility through bodily autonomy. All of these add up to Vice President Harris being nominated and elected for our president. So if you are a young man, I would encourage you to lean into your code around masculinity, and that code leads to one place, and that is a Harris administration.
Wow, I have not heard that one. If you want to have sex, vote Harris. I like it. That's what we're saying. Correct?
There you go.
If I had to boil it down. All right, that's an interesting and novel thing. I just like her. That's why I'm voting for her.